Okay, at this point, we have Greg Astorian, our Government Affairs Director, who's been waiting here on the sidelines to give us his presentation on a couple of issues. One of them, right in front of us, March 5th election as to what's taking place, as well as other commercial property related stuff. Greg, please take it away.
Thank you, President Sarabian. Rick, that was a really illuminating presentation. I appreciate on the forums. I mean, that's something that we all need and enjoy. Well, maybe enjoy is too exuberant of a word, but need and like to get updated. Having said that, we are going to be talking about three things today. First is what's happening with the ballots, how many people have returned their ballots, specifically in City of Glendale, and what does it mean? Is there a trend? We're going to have a slow turnout, not slow turnout? Is it going to be the same as before, or what have you? That's the first part. The second part, we will be discussing about a potential bill that has been introduced by a senator that could be, at least ab initio, at start, it could be the making of, yes, you're going to hear it here now, rent control on commercial properties. And the third concept, or not concept, the third important information that I have for you is from last night's city council meeting, with some background that I'll provide for you so you know why we are where we are and what your association did to get where we are. With that, I am going to start my presentation or let's start sharing my screen. Okay. So now you should, in front of you, see a screen that on the top right says PDI, right? Does everybody see that? Okay, very good. So what we do, just like the campaigns that are running for city council, assembly, senate, or what have you, we also follow the number of the ballots that have been mailed out and how many to date have been sent back. In City of Glendale, the total registrants, 111,456 voters are registered, and all of the ballots were sent to them between February 2nd and February 7th. To date, what we have is actually, that's the number of the ballots, and then we have about 10% return, or 11,000 ballots. Now, that, according to some, is a slow turnout, and predictably so, because your primary did not have all of the hoopla about a presidential elections. Basically, the nominees for both parties were already known, and so it didn't affect the high turnout, or it did not cause a high turnout. Interestingly, if you look at the registrations for Democrats, independents, and others, and Republicans, maybe about 10% of the Democrats have returned their ballots. This is as of yesterday, folks. About 9% of the independents and about 11% of the Republicans have returned their ballots. Again, this is for the city of Glendale. Now, bear in mind that we are about 6 days away, right? Thursday, it was about 7% return. On Friday, I believe, I'm sorry, on Tuesday, it was about 8%. Today, we are at 10%. Undoubtedly, this will surge. We will have a surge because you can still mark your ballot March 5th and mail it, and it will be counted towards for the final tally. But that ballot needs to be postmarked March 5th. Let's go down on and follow my cursor on this one. Let's look at age-wise. What are the returns? For example, 65 plus, the total number of the folks in the electorate are about 32,000, and there is about 6,000 ballots that have been returned that for the ages of 65 plus. That's about 19%. Compare that, for example, to age 18 to 34 at about 4%, and 35 to 49 at around 6%. So basically, what happens is that in a slow turnout primary, that serves the older, more conservative demographics and so forth. So that's that as far as tracking the ballots are concerned. We'll update you one more time next Wednesday, the day after election, of what has happened, whether or not this is going to be changed. The estimation is that this is going, this year at least, that the estimation is that it's going to be 12% less. So anywhere between 29,000 to about 31,000 ballots will be returned. But we will see, because as I said, there is always a surge afterwards. This one is the same thing for the assembly, and that is for AD 44, Assembly District 44. That covers a big chunk of Glendale. As you can see, the ballots are about 8%. I want to talk a little bit about Senator Menjivar of Burbank and the bill that she has introduced, because I think you will find it interesting. The bill is dubbed under SB 1103. It pretends to expand the existing translation requirements to commercial leases to different languages, just like a residential lease does. It wants to limit security deposits. We're talking about security deposits, but on commercial to 1 month rent for small businesses and nonprofits. Of course, her explanation and or classification of small businesses and nonprofits are businesses with employees below 25 and nonprofits with employees below 50 people and what have you. Now, it will also increase the requirement to give notice to vacate and so forth. And as you know very well, in commercial real estate, most people are dubbed or are considered to be sophisticated, at least in the transactions that I've been involved. So none of this stuff existed, but this is a full an introduction to what I think, unfortunately, would be a rent control in the commercial arena. We will see how this will pan out. I know it's within the it was brought up at BizFed. You know, GAOR is a BizFed member, and they have it under their radar, and they are going to be watching this very, very carefully. The third thing that I want to talk to you about is the meeting that we had at the City Council last night. If you remember, a few months back, there was a suggestion by your mayor, and the council bought into it, to look into a moratorium a la South Pasadena for major renovation work or major renovation evictions. Under the law, you have that opportunity that if you want to completely renovate a building and or an apartment building, you have that opportunity to do so. And pardon me, and Pasadena decided to put a moratorium on it. And of course, at the time, we made a call to the city council. We opposed this moratorium, blanket moratorium for the city of Glendale. The reason being is you can't compare South Pass to Glendale. South Pass has about 4,500, 5,000 units. Glendale has got 50,000 units. South Pass has got 35,000 people that live in it and residents and what have you. Glendale has got 200,000. So at any rate, we were successful in scuttling this idea, this bad idea about having a moratorium blanket moratorium in the city of Glendale for major renovation. Thanks to, by the way, your strike team, and Carmen will talk to you about what that strike team is, and a lot of people that volunteered to show up at the city council meeting a few months ago about this thing. By the way, I want to emphasize that not too many people do major renovations. All of this kerfuffle started with a couple of buildings on Linden and Justin that week in and week out, and I'm empathetic to the tenants. They will show up from the same two buildings, by the way, right? That we are being evicted and the city is not doing anything, put a moratorium on it and what have you. So we were successful in tabling this conversation, terrible proposition about moratorium, blanket wise in the city of Glendale. The council then said, okay, from the rental rights program, are we going to exclude any units that will not be subject to a moratorium or a relocation fee? They started at 9 units, they came down to 6 units, and of course, then they came down to 4 units. It's like as if having 4 bites, 3 or 4 bites at the apple. And the Mayor Brotman was very consistent and insistent that the 3 and the 4 units should not be exempted when it comes to major renovations from the rental rights program. Of course, we have argued and talked and sent emails and justifications and reports and studies, one of which really riled a lot of people in the city of Glendale, that, look, what you're doing is not fair. You're affecting the folks that are the backbone of the community in providing housing that will be what is known as the NOA, or naturally occurring affordable housing. So this major renovations came back last night, and there was a discussion on it, whether or not it should have a relocation or not. And again, this was the 3rd or 4th bite. And we talked, and the arguments that we provided on behalf of GAOR to the city council was that really this compromise is acknowledging the unique role that a small housing provider has in our community. It's not just about policy. We also talked about NOAA, and we said that if you were to do this, you will be affecting what is the most natural, affordable housing available in the city of Glendale, which are the 3, 4, 2 units, right? And by the way, we tried very hard, and Carmen can attest to that, Seva can attest to that, Rick Bunyadi can attest to that. In 2018, we wanted to exempt the 3 and the 4 units from the rental rights. But unfortunately, we lost that by 1 vote, and the only exemption were the duplexes. And the councilman that decided that it should be only duplexes no longer serves on the city council. Take any hints on that as you may. So we also talked about the fact that, look, there is about 1,700 buildings in city of Glendale, thanks to Mr. Bagdasarian and Mr. Santillo that provided the statistics to me. I appreciate that. That are comprised of 3 and 4 units. And when you average that, that comes to about 6,000 units. Now, when you compare to 50,000 units, that's about 11% of the entire stock of family units in city of Glendale. So what does that mean? That means that 90% of the units in city of Glendale are providing protections for the tenants. Leave this 10% alone. These are the backbone of your community. These are the folks that are providing the service to the city of Glendale by providing units that are small, affordable, and what have you. According to Turner report that, by the way, created a lot of kerfuffle in the city of Glendale, most small housing providers do not force the issue of the rent. They barely break even. And that's the arguments that we used, President Sarabian, and we were successful last night Therefore, the February 6th decision stands for now. And so we can put that in the win column for Glendale Association of Realtors. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Greg. As always, very much appreciate the detail specifics that you share with us. All right, with that said, we've had a nice almost hour-long meeting today.